Hey everyone, welcome back to Nightlight Astrology. It's Dana here with Whitney and Alex, and we are so excited to be talking to you about rituals for the fall equinox. Before we get into it, of course, you have to go to nightlightastrology.com. You have to check out everything Adam has to offer there. Lots of great workshops going on. We've got Adam has um, a retreat coming up it's May of 26, correct?
hmm
Yeah,
Yep.
Or
so
June.
or
Some
June.
look it up.
It's next year. Go to the website, go to the website, go to the website, nightlightastrology.com. Whitney, Alex, it's good to see y'all.
It's
Good to see
so
you.
yeah, Dana, we've missed you. We're
People
so
have been
happy to be
wondering.
here. They've been in the chat, like,
Yeah,
where's
they've
Dana?
been in the comments. Like,
Listen,
where's Dana?
guys, it's killing me. School is killing me. I think most people listening know I teach, and
Mm,
I have just been in the trenches.
Yeah,
I've been in the
yeah.
trenches, but I'm happy to be back for this talk.
Bless you and everything you do for the growing
Thank you.
minds of our youths.
I did
The
have a
Utes.
child draw the Utes. Yeah,
The
I did
Utes.
have a child draw a hairy butt on my whiteboard yesterday. So that's the kind of work I'm doing.
Okay, well,
Dana is in the trenches with America's Utes.
Yeah, the
She...
Utes. I can't with them.
oh
Um,
man.
Wow. Wow.
so
This is like the inside scoop on teaching. Yeah.
yeah, I know. Yeah, it's not what you expect is happening. Um, But here we are. And this is why we need rituals now more than ever, because even if you're not in a classroom with wild children, you are probably feeling the effects of eclipse season. And even if it wasn't eclipse season, you probably want to feel a little more connected to the natural ebb and flow of nature. And I think that's what we're going to really get into today. How can we connect with the energy of the fall equinox? What's it all about? Um, and yeah, how can we honor that in our rituals? Sound good?
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Yeah. We've got two Libra risings in the room here. And so I think a lot about Libra energy. I think about, or no, you're a Libra moon. Not,
Libra moon. Yeah.
okay. I was
I
like,
was like,
he's
he's
definitely
a
not a Libra
Leo
rising.
I
rising.
was like, wait a second. Whitney's a Libra rising?
Like,
Is it
who's
just,
this?
No,
did we
Yeah.
rectify her chart?
Alex, we're both Leo
Leo
risings.
rising.
I stand corrected. I knew there was another Libra energy in the room. But yeah, I mean, we've thought about this a lot, is the point I'm trying to make. And I think there's so much to say about Libra that gets lost in the like superficial, beauty and fairness and like yes, but also let's go deeper. If we think about the journey of the sun around the zodiac, it's the initiation into the dark half of the year where light starts to become less dominant or lose dominance. The darkness prevails, which sounds so like metal, but it's that part of the year. And so it's a turning inward. It's a shift into receiving mode is what I like to think about. And opening up to that receiving and simply receiving wisdom, I think too. It's a time of reflection and going inward. And I think too about the energy of kind of assessing the situation, which I'm sure we're going to get into this in more detail as we discuss, but those are my high level thoughts about the kind of ritual this time of year offers. I would love to know what you guys think.
Yeah, I think that one of the greatest things about studying astrology is understanding the light cycle. And that's something I'm obsessed with is the symbolism of the northern hemisphere light cycle that we use in the zodiac to draw a lot of our ideas from. And one of the things that I love about Libra and it's being the first sign of sort of descending down into the darkness is it it gets us into a more reflective mode. I think in the solar part of the year. So from Aries to Libra, there's a feeling of I'm going out and I'm doing things and we live in the northern hemisphere, so we're going out in summertime and there's a very eye-driven type of energy. And then you get to Libra and it's just like what just happened? Like I think especially around like the beginning of school, like there's this time where it's just like, whoa, summer just happened. I was just going through my phone and being like, we did all of this summer? Holy crap. Like we've been like thinking about like all the stuff that we have done and gone and the family we've seen and all of this. Libra is like a wonderful time of reflection and taking stock. And I think that solar energy unchecked can burn itself out, literally. And you need that time in Libra season and as we descend down in towards the winter solstice of just taking stock. What happened? What did we do? What do I want to do better? What do I want to try? What am I really proud of? But it's this reflective time that I think is so necessary for a nice deep breath.
Yes. Oh, I love what you guys are saying, and I love this time of year. This fall season is definitely my favorite time of year. Why is that? No, it is not back to school. It is because the summer is so full of expectations of grandeur, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone wants to have the best summer ever and do all the things, and our schedules, our calendars get packed with all of these things. And then all of a sudden fall comes, the darkness. Wait, how did you word it? The darkness
Darkness
enters.
prevails.
Yes.
Yeah.
The darkness prevails, and all of a sudden, we get this excuse, like we even needed one? No, but we get this excuse to sort of step back from all of these expectations of the world. And that was just really what was running through my mind as like I love Dana that you pointed out that this is a time of receiving. I love Alex that you pointed out it's a time of reflection. I think that when we talk about, because the sun is in fall in Libra, right? When we talk about, you know, the solar qualities, the ideal, the ego, right? We don't always think about that the sun in its fall isn't necessarily about, a change of ideals and ego, but it's about shifting that perspective back toward receiving, toward reflection instead of go, 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 you know?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a moment in time. And because we think about the archetypes from a natal perspective, a lot of the time that part gets lost. That, like, no, it's just like this is the season. This is the moment for receiving. And for one thing that came to mind as I was hearing you guys talk too is that idea of rest and digest.
Mm.
It's we've done so much. We've been busy and now we can integrate a little bit more. And it requires taking a moment, which honestly, I think can be really hard to do no matter what time of year it is. But in America or the West, I think really the end of the year, like September, October, November, December, our like social kind of pace does not slow down at all. Like gets more crazy.
Yeah.
At least for me, I don't know if you guys feel that way. So I think it's even more important that we're talking about this because it's like it's not supernatural to do that, you know?
Well, I think that we're like, I used to say to my yoga students all the time because people by like November are already starting to feel fried. You can see it, you can feel it in the room, you can just read it in people's body language and their energy. And I used to always say it's so funny that like at a time of year where our biology is asking us to rest, our biology is responding to the signals of the light. We have rituals of wanting to keep the light going in some way, right? Especially around the holidays. There's that Sagittarian, like excess that starts to come in around the holidays at a time where we're really trying to loosen the reins on that a little bit and just and be a little bit more settled. And that's why I know we're getting a little ahead in the calendar here, but I always love the days between Christmas and New Year's because it just feels like Saturn comes and says we're not going to do anything right now. We're just going to spare and minimal. And that's actually something that does tie back to Libra is Saturn's exaltation is, you know, sometimes it's about, even though the social calendar may be filling up, which is a very kind of, Libra thing, it's being also selective about how that's filling up. And, sometimes God knows that's easier said than done, especially when you have a lot of things you have to do for your family or for school or for whatever. But Saturn's ask, I think, this time of the year is often like, what's actually required? Like, what do you actually have to do? And are you leaving time for that biological need to sort of just rest, to come into the natural winter, so to speak?
Mhm.
I just want to be a bear and hibernate.
I
Like
know, me
why
too.
isn't this a thing?
I know.
Why am I not allowed to hibernate?
I know. I feel
As
that.
I shake my fist.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Well, I think if we're going to think about what are the rituals, Alex, you brought up Saturn, and that's kind of where my mind went to as well, thinking about the scales, thinking about this being kind of a natural time to assess the situation. Um, as a starting point and maybe a segue into that deeper rest and letting go. So I would say, Sag season, I think is a great time for really like purging and letting go. And then by the time we get to the Saturn seasons, Capricorn and Aquarius, we are like in full rest. So Libra season coming off of Virgo season, I think about taking stock. I think about looking at your life and doing like a life audit. And this can be as ritual or as routine as you want it to be, meaning you can make it magical, you can make it spiritual, or you can make it like a thing you do in a journal and that's the end of it. But it's really easy. You just take the different areas and domains of your life, get as detailed as you want with that. It could be as simple as work, personal relationships, or you could, get more nuanced with it. But what do you like? What do you not like? What should you keep? What should you toss? And you may not arrive at like total clarity the first time you do this. Maybe all of Libra season is your time to assess the situation and rebalance the scales and really just use the air quality of this sign to think strategically about what's working for you and what's not. And I would argue too, feel it in your body. Now, I don't know if I would link that advice to anything specifically like astrological or about the equinox, but I just think that's a good practice. Like, don't just use your mind, feel into it. What feels right to keep, what feels right to let go.
So true because if we keep going with the Saturn theme here, we've talked about in the eclipse videos we've done how Saturn is really overseeing this Virgo eclipse at 29 Virgo just before the sun tips into Libra. And I think a lot about accountability with Saturn. And I think that that word can be a little bit sound heavy-handed, like, Saturn's going to hold your feet to the fire kind of feeling. But I think what it really, for me, what I've been reflecting on lately is, am I in integrity, not only with others, which can be the impetus of Libra or a Venus ruled sign. Let me think about my relationships, which is important. But am I in integrity with myself? Where have I intentionally, unintentionally, for whatever reason, sold myself out this year? Where have I not acted in accordance with what I truly desired? Where have I lied to somebody else to keep the peace where I really need to have an honest conversation? I think that Saturn, and I've been learning this lesson in the last few weeks for myself, Saturn is really about that sense of, are you being truthful with yourself? And therefore, are you being truthful with others? And I think it's, for what I've been discovering, I think it can go both ways, but what I've been discovering is it really starts with yourself, like taking stock of like, where could I do better? Where did I also do well?
Hmm.
And I think that that's also equally important to look at. It can be very, Saturn's negative tone we can hear from Saturn can be like, well, what did you do wrong? But what did you do well? What did you excel at? What can you pat yourself on the back for? And that's a really important part of moving through these kinds of reflective processes, is not just making it about like, well, where is I out of integrity, which is important, but also like, look at all I've done. Look at all I've achieved. Saturn, to my mind, also rewards that in some ways. When you stop and look back and say, like, look, I've done so much. I'm really proud of this. I really excelled at this. I really grew in this way, even though it was hard. So it's important to acknowledge those things too.
Oh, I love that. And you both mentioned, I mean, between the scales and balancing, right? I think I heard both of you say these keywords, taking stock. And I think that's so important right now when we look at the symbolism of the season, right? The equinox, the precipice of Libra season. This is the final harvest, right? This is when folks would traditionally gather together with gratitude for this harvest. And so when we think about it that way and this sort of process of taking stock, it's like, we're inventorying our own goods, right?
Yeah.
What we have to move with us through throughout the fall, throughout the dark winter. And I can't help but look at, I mean, really the symbolism of what is happening post this Virgo eclipse, right? I mean,
Mm.
the equinox takes place literally the day after this 29-degree Virgo eclipse, right? And so there's, and if you missed it, we did an episode that last month that was all about rituals during eclipse season, right? There's there's the reminder to go back and look at that one. If you want to, honor the eclipse itself. But I'm thinking about so much this Virgo eclipse is about conscious release, right? And so main thing on my mind right now at the equinox is what do we have to offer as a sacrifice, as a release to the Virgo eclipse and the fall equinox, right? What do we need to shed in order to move forward? So that's really how I'm moving through this time. I mean, there are so many different ways to do that, right? From meditations. I mean, do you guys ever use the Chani app?
Oh
Have
yeah.
you? I'm obsessed. I mean, okay, so love Chani Nicholas really came to astrology a decade plus ago through Chani's one little horoscope email at that point. Well, she's got this whole app now, and it's full of different sorts of meditations, right? The balance one is actually really good. If you just want something easy to like work your way into this sort of mindset, I think that's a great place to start. So yeah, I'm thinking about this as like an inventory practice and like what do I have to move with me? What are we releasing at the same time?
Yeah. Nailed it. And I think that's a perfect segue for like, that's, I think, two main approaches to rituals that I'm seeing are what we were just talking about, like the inventory, and then also letting go. And these can work hand in hand or they can be separate. I do want to touch back on something you were saying, Alex, about like you didn't quite use these words, and maybe you weren't even trying to make this point, but you did make me think about the objectivity maybe that we can access during a cardinal air season and that being really conducive to non-judgmental evaluation. Because I don't know about you, but when I go to reflect on my life, there's a lot of weird feelings can come up. You know, I
Hmm.
I can feel like judgmental toward myself very easily. And if we're talking about the fall equinox happening the day after an anaretic eclipse in Virgo, like the potential is there for some self-critical talk and some um even, self-sabotage may be a little extreme, but maybe not. Um, I think it's important, is what I'm trying to say, that we go into this being really grounded emotionally, right? And maybe that won't be super possible for everybody, but just trying to use that honesty, right? Get real honest about how we're feeling, and then also know that evaluating how you're doing is not the same thing as evaluating your worth and evaluating yourself. You're just assessing the situation. You're looking at the facts as they stand, which is not the same as your worth. So I just want to throw that out there. And I do think too that intentional letting go makes a lot of sense here. Now, how might that look? I think it depends, but it can be tangible. It can be like a fall clean out that feels as symbolic as it is, literal to you. I know I regularly do um, a symbolic clean of this room, especially that I'm in, where I'm not just cleaning. It's an energetic cleanse that I'm doing as well. And there's so many ways you can do that, but I will say you definitely don't need to buy a bunch of supplies. Sound is really great. Incense people love to use, of course. Not everybody can do that. If you live in an apartment or you have people who are sensitive to smoke, I really like a bell, like a little bell around the room. Um, so I would encourage a little bit of both, really, is how I'm looking at this. The evaluation piece and the What am I ready to let go of or even start letting go of? Because letting go can be scary too. Letting go can be hard. And maybe you're just only ready to acknowledge something needs to be let go and you're not ready to fully do it yet. You can just make 1% progress and let that be good enough.
There's I love where you're going with this, Dana, because in the process of evaluation, like it can take us a lot of us back to like work or school, right? You're being evaluated, and it can make you think there's some outer thing that's looking in at you that's saying like, okay, you better get this right the next time, that sort of feeling. But I think the hardest thing for any of us as souls and beings is our own inner evaluation of ourselves. It's that, and we can become definitely with the 29-degree Virgo eclipse heading up this eclipse, heading up this equinox season. Yeah, it can get real critical, real judgmental, real guilty very fast. And I think that evaluation doesn't mean that you're going through giving yourself a report card. It doesn't mean that you're. I love how school keeps coming up in this, by the way. It's just like where my mind went because we've been talking about this. Sorry for taking you back to work, Dana. But
Okay.
there's a feeling with this of one of the things I said to myself years ago, I began a really intense healing work for myself around 2012. And I just spontaneously said to myself out of thin air, I said, no matter what I see in this process, I will love myself. No matter what I see that happened to me or that I've done, I promise that I will love myself. And I wrote that down and I've said it every single time I get into a really judgmental place, which is pretty easy for someone with 3 planets in Virgo to do. I'll say, no matter what I see here, I love myself. And it doesn't mean I don't take accountability. It doesn't mean I don't make amends, or it doesn't mean that I don't seek accountability or amends where I feel that those are appropriate. But it's really important to remember that, from my point of view, at least in my belief system, the basis of what we are is unconditional love.
Mhm.
And that this is not something where it's sort of pointing a damning finger at you. It's just saying, maybe this is somewhere you can level up. Maybe this is somewhere you can break a karmic bond that's been holding you and somebody else or a group of people back for a long time. This is a time to sever those and start fresh and begin again. So that's where I go
Beautiful.
with it.
And I love that you are both talking about how to make this sort of self-evaluation productive rather than like incredibly judgmental, right? Like, hi, I'm a Virgo too. It's real hard. I get like we're there. But okay, clean slate, we're in Libra season now. And where do Libras thrive in relation with other people? So if the self-evaluation feels a little too heavy, like traditional celebration of the equinoxes, we're having social celebrations, folks. We're having feasts, we're having bonfires. It's a big old party, okay? So if it feels a little too heavy right now in this moment to sort of do all of that sort of deep inner evaluation, this is a great time to turn it on those closest to you, right? Surround yourself
Mhm.
with the people you love who can help lift you up in this time and help you sort of see yourself through their eyes. Like, I just, it's especially with this sort of spookiness of the eclipse, and it feels important, right, to honor both the light and the dark. But you know, guys, I'm an internal optimist, and it's really hard to get stuck like in that darkness, right? So when we can surround ourselves with other people, you know what? I was looking at specifically the astrology of this equinox because when the sun enters Libra, we have the sun sort of holding that tension of the kite with Saturn and Neptune on the other side, right? We've got the whole air trine going on. Mars has just entered Scorpio. Thank you for sharing the chart on the screen, Dana.
Got you, girl.
Beautiful. And so there's a lot going on here. If we had, which by the way, I love that you pull charts without aspect lines. Aspect lines drive me insane. Oh my gosh, it looks so messy. But But if we had aspect lines drawn on this chart, we would see that you've got basically like all of these planets engaging directly with one another. Like even Mars is in a square with Pluto, right? And Venus is squaring Uranus. So I'm looking at all of these planets in conversation with each other. And you know what I think would be so cool if you're going to have like an equinox bonfire with your neighbors or something? You know that storytelling game where each person like says a line of a story and then you keep going around the circle, right? And you like end up with this group story. I'm seeing storytelling as really prominent with this. I think that on a personal level, that's a reminder, don't get caught up in your own stories,
Mhm.
right? But when we can flip that on its head with the group atmosphere and tell each other's stories, like I just think that would be such a beautiful way to honor what we are working with here celestially.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And God, what can we say about this? There's so much to unpack with this chart and this moment in time. And you just said so many things beautifully, Whitney. I'm coming back to the idea of letting go again and just thinking about big picture, it's an eclipse, right? We're coming off of an eclipse. And I'm thinking about the idea of white knuckling and how God, if we get into this space of trying to evaluate, which is kind of a natural thing to do this time of year, whether we're doing it on purpose or not, um, I would say it would be a good idea for us to try to practice release, releasing control, releasing our internal grip, releasing the need to know what's going to happen next, which, real talk, I think us astrology lovers maybe need that note more than anybody because that's what we're trying to do all the time. Like, what's going to happen? And it can get easy to get caught up in that and to have it kind of snowball into anxiety. So I think that what I would offer with this, astrology aside, or maybe because of the astrology specifically, is noticing where you're wanting to grip, where you're wanting more certainty, where you're wishing that things were a little more clear cut, and maybe they're just not. Maybe there's just a lot of power struggle. Maybe there's just a lot of uh, chaos. I don't know, but new stuff coming through. And there's a lot that can't be controlled right now. I think that's the main thing I'm getting from every angle I'm looking at this. Like, there's a lot that's just kind of happening. So, can you ride the wave? Can you stay with yourself while you're riding the wave without clinging to what's going to happen? That is so much easier said than done, but I think that's the big practice at this time.
So well said. So well said. I want to slow clap, but I don't think it'll come out right on the microphone. But but it's a sort of slow clap. Um, I look at the sun opposing Neptune, and I think about things that may feel individually overwhelming, but relationally easier. Connective, like you were saying, Whitney, like,
Mm.
when you get together for with a group of like-minded people, it just feels better when you're with family, when you're with friends, when you're in celebration. There's something about, especially this time of year, because I just love cozy season. I love fall. I have a fourth degree black belt in fall. I love it so much. And I like, and it really feels like, even when things are hard, like, you have something that smells good in the oven and you have friends over, or you're at least connecting with people. It takes your mind off of that sort of perseveration and like the anxiety, the future anxiety, Dana, that you're talking about a lot, which I think with Neptune, sometimes it can feel there's overwhelm very easily that comes with Neptune. There's even a sense of helplessness that sometimes comes with Neptune. But look at that. The sun is also trining Pluto and trining Uranus. Mars is squaring Pluto. That's not a subtle expression at all. Mars in Scorpio trining Pluto, no less. there's power here, where it could be easy. I think one of the things I've been saying all about these kites that are forming as these planets pass through the beginning of Libra, the opposition to Neptune and the trines to Pluto and Uranus, is we can get focused on the opposition, what's not working, what's opposing
Mhm.
me, what's pushing back. And that could feel Neptune, like this overwhelm or helplessness or something like that. But there's power to be had here. There's novelty to be had here. And there's also a sense of like, I think renewal that's possible, but it's not. We were talking about this in one of our videos too with Whitney and Alexandra. Like, it's not about just me and me making it happen. It's about the connectivity. It's about maybe doing some self-evaluation, but it's connecting when things feel overwhelming to those that we trust and love. Even our fur babies can be helpful with this too.
Oh, always bringing in the fur
Always
babies.
the fur babies.
Always the yes, pet your dogs, pet your cats. We love that. No, I'm just like I keep looking at this chart and my mind is running with all of these ideas. I mean, it's because it's air, right? We've got this grand air trine, right? It's thoughtful, it's contemplative. We've talked so much about journaling and self-reflection, but something that I know I've been working on and I think is one of my from the very early beginnings of our eclipse season in this weird space-time continuum we are recording inside is like coming back to my own body and right because my sun is in an air sign. I can get really in my head and I'm remembering like what it feels like to have daily routines with our body, right, that we structure around. And so amidst all of this power, potential chaos, what we say, this is just going to be kind of an exciting time, right? that's that's
Mm,
that's that's the
mhm.
euphemism, okay? But it's like let's ground into our bodies and those sort of self-care rituals that really help us. A practice that I've been doing now for, I mean, gosh, every day for maybe 2+ years is gua sha. Do you guys know what gua
Hmm.
sha is, right?
Yeah.
And there's something with these planets in Libra, right? We've got the sun, Mercury, and the moon, and it's asking for like a release of the lymph. And that's why the gua sha practice is so good, right? Because it stimulates the lymph nodes. And then, okay, I'm thinking Libra, medically, Libra rules like the back and the kidneys, right? Do you guys know
I've
about
seen the
this?
Yeah.
skin, but it could be the back too. I'm not great on medical astrology.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think even skin. Okay, that works with the gua sha. Um and I'm also thinking about because I think I've read that Libra has a tie to sort of the kidneys and then that makes me think about all of the detox, right? That happens that our body works through. So how we can at this time continue with these routines that flush the toxins out of our
Mhm.
bodies, right? I mean, we know exercise is the easiest thing to do that, right? But there are also simple exercises that help, sort of stimulate lymph drainage. One of them, it's like super weird, but I've been doing this. Okay, along with the gua sha, if I don't have time to work out, I'm just doing jumping jacks, like literally jumping jacks to get the lymph flowing. So that's one of them. There's also this like weird thing, you guys. It's like kind of a windmill. I'm not going to do it because I'll look stupid and half of our audience is only listening to us anyway. But it's like a windmill with your arms where you swing and
Mm.
then one arm hits your back on the opposite side, right? And the other
Mhm.
on the opposite
I do
side and
this
the
every
other.
morning, Whitney. Every morning.
Okay, Alex,
Yeah.
is it called something? Because
I
that is like directly stimulating the lymph and the kidneys and the detox. And I think we all just need to do our weird little windmills on this day.
if the hands hit high enough, it hits one of the kidney pressure points in acupressure. Again, I'm not
Yeah.
an expert on the acupressure points, but if it has to hit near the belly button level of your
Yeah.
spine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
This is
Wow.
what I do. Oh, that's so funny that you do too, Alex.
Yeah.
I don't know where
Every
I
morning.
picked it up, but yeah. We got to get the juices flowing, guys.
I
Mm-hmm.
know.
Oh,
This is great. I mean, I think if we were to take this full circle and high level, just to like recap all of these incredible insights, the big picture, I think, is release and receive. There's lots of ways you can do that on lots of levels. Don't skip or sleep on the physical level of that, I feel like is the takeaway from what Whitney was just saying, which is like so true, especially in this time of year where we might be really in our heads with all this air energy. Um, be mindful of your self-talk, especially if you're engaging in these evaluation practices. Don't be mean to yourself. Maybe the predilection, is that the word, with relationships that Libra has, like maybe cultivating a good relationship with yourself as you do this would be a nice way to embrace the Libra of it all. Any final thoughts, guys?
I think I just want to emphasize again something nourishing physically that you can do for yourself in terms of movement. Like that, one of the reasons I love Qigong. It's something I've done every morning informally for many, many years, and it's very, very nourishing. I do a lot of the nourishing movements for myself just based on the work. Like we do a lot of giving and healing and being with people very intensely. So I do a lot of nourishing movements for myself. But I think also, a really simple ritual that you could do is just take a sheet of paper. It doesn't have to be traditional journaling. Put a line down the center and say, things on one side of like, I really enjoyed when I did this since Aries season. So go back to March. I really enjoyed when I did
mm.
on one side. And the other side say like things I would like to do better from this equinox to the next equinox, right? Things I would like to do better. Not that I did bad, not that I screwed
Mhm.
up, but things that I'd like to do better. I'd like to communicate this better or whatever. Super simple, something like that. It can have all sorts of stuff. If you like to do, really are tangible and like to do with the herbs and all that, that's wonderful. But just really something simple. It's just like, let me just think about this for maybe 3 minutes. Even a minute of that kind of reflection can have a huge, huge impact. And I don't know, it can affect your relationships. It also really affects your relationship with yourself in a really nice way. No matter what I see, I love myself. Just remember that.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, I really don't have a whole lot to add. I gave you all of this. In fact, I'm sitting over here hot because I got so excited about that Alex and I do the same little movements in the morning. And so I think we've really covered it, right? That reflection, schedule some time for journaling, and I think that, that's the best way to move through this equinox with agency.
Beautiful. Guys, where can everyone find you?
You can find me at www.alexamorosi.com. So my name.com. You can book energy healing with me there. It's a great season for energy healing. Just going to say, really good season for energy healing. And you can also book readings with me there. You can book my signature kitchen sink style reading, which is basically everything I know how to do in one reading.
Amazing.
Hmm.
You also have a Substack.
I also have a Substack. Jesus Christ, I forget about my Substack all the time. I'm on the Substack.
The
I
Substack.
sound like my father. I'm on the Substack.
You're
Uh,
like that progressive commercial. Isn't that what
vi-
Oh, yeah.
watching on the Netflix. I'm on Substack at The Subtle Universe on Substack, The Subtle Universe. Thanks, Whitney.
Amazing. Oh, of course. I can't forget because it's in my inbox every lunation and I freaking
Right.
love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and you can find me if you need help moving through, I mean, eclipse season, of course, we're putting an end to that into the equinox. If you need help moving through that time with oodles of reflective goodness and integration, come book a reading with me. You can do that at astroarcana.com. That's Arcana, Arcana. And then head over to astro.arcana.astrology here on YouTube. That is where I have my own channel where I release bi-weekly episodes. That is, but yes, every other week in time with the lunations. And you can find me at the same place on Instagram.
Amazing. Well, you found me at Self-Help Witch, but I have evolved. Things have changed. Yes. So now you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at dana.solara, Solara. My website, which will be live by the time this is up, God willing, is danasolara.com. And I
Yeah.
have, yes, yes, yes. I have a new thing coming out called Your Main Character Era Club. I'm moving into women's empowerment work, and I'm very freaking excited about it. Helping women stop playing supporting character roles in their lives. So if you want to learn more about that and what I'm doing, please come through. I would love to have you.
That sounds perfect
Amazing.
for Libra season.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Well, thank you everyone for being here, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so
Bye, everybody.
much.
Bye.
Bye.